Hi everyone, I'm Steph and welcome to lesson 2. So last lesson we set the students a research task in that they were to use some different methodologies and gather some stories from people in their community. So that is a strong community link, and we're going to be talking about those stories today during lesson with them. So basically what you want to do is gather from the students the types of research methodologies that they've chosen to use and the information that that has produced for them. And you want the students to draw connections between the types of research methodologies being used and the types of information gathered so that they can start to work out which methodologies will be most useful to them in which situations. So the first thing we do during the lesson is to look at the learning map to locate the lesson. Now, I'm not going to write that at the start of every single lesson, but actually at the beginning of every hour lesson, we should be referring back to the learning map that's on the plant pot so that the students know exactly where they are at the start of each lesson. So these stories that students have gathered will be told as a narrative. So that's community links, and it's also story sharing. Now, straight away, by locating the map on the plant pot, you've got land links and symbols and images. But we're going to take that a little bit further, and we're going to draw analogies from nature to teach qualitative and quantitative concepts. So what I mean by that is you take objects in nature and use them to illustrate your point. So if we're talking about quantitative analysis, we might be talking about one leaf and looking at that leaf very, very carefully in lots of detail. If we're talking about qualitative analysis, we might be talking about looking at all the leaves on a tree, and the tree will have lots and lots of leaves, and we're not looking at each one in detail, we're looking at them all together as a group. That's quantitative analysis. So you can see that you're using nature analogies to illustrate the point. We're also going to draw analogies to community and talking to people, as opposed to hearing from someone else what they said. So that's to illustrate primary and secondary concepts of research. And in terms of qualitative and quantitative analysis, I find this diagram particularly useful because it shows that it is actually a spectrum. Rather than being one or the other, there are some things that are in the middle and will be a little bit of both. So I find that particularly useful graphic to use in this lesson, and hopefully by the end of this lesson the outcomes are that students will understand which pieces of research they need to use when to get the types of information that they want, hopefully in their PIP. And during this lesson you've used all of these 8 ways concepts, but you can also see by starting with nature analogies, we've started big picture. And then we've talked about talking to people directly, and we've worked through the stories that they've gathered, and then we've built back to a picture of what type of research you use and when. So we've actually gone through that reconstruct, deconstruct model. And we will use that model every lesson, so I actually won't be putting the symbol in all the time, but I just wanted to point out that while it runs through the entire course, it also runs through this lesson. And primarily every lesson will run through that method. So by the end of this lesson, we want students to be able to have a look at all of these different types of research and know which research they need to use when to get the information that they want when they're doing their PIP. Thank you.